the 1800s, England began trading with the world, bringing back silks, spices, and by accident, a deadly zombie virus. The disease spread quickly, turning millions into brain-eating monsters. To fight back, people started learning martial arts from China and Japan. To protect the capital, the government built a massive 100-foot wall around London, called the Grand Barrier. They also dug a deep moat, the Royal Canal, around it. The land between the wall and the canal was called the in-between. But when zombies crossed during the Second Battle of Kent and wiped out a village, the king went mad and ordered all bridges destroyed, except one. Soon, nobles left the city to live in walled estates far from the chaos. One day, Colonel Darcy visits an estate in Hertfordshire after hearing someone might be infected. A guard checks him and a priest inspects his body for bites. Inside, Mrs. Featherstone, the lady of the house, insists there are no zombies around. Darcy pretends to play cards with her and quietly releases special flies that can detect rotting flesh. The flies quickly land on a man, he's infected. Without hesitation, Darcy kills the man with a broken glass and a sword. He asks if the man had contact with anyone, but Mrs. Featherstone denies it. Darcy leaves, but her daughter runs upstairs to check on the man's niece. It's too late, the girl has already turned and is attacking people in the house. Meanwhile, Mr. Bennet is training his 5 daughters in every weapon and fighting style to survive the zombie threat. Mrs. Bennet isn't happy with her daughter's focus on anything other than marriage. When she hears about a local dance, she convinces Mr. Bennet to let them go, hoping it will help them meet potential husbands. All the sisters are excited, except Elizabeth, who doesn't enjoy big social events. Still, they dress up in their finest clothes and secretly hide weapons under them. At the party, Bingley is chatting with his friend Darcy when he spots Jane. He's instantly smitten and asks her to dance. They hit it off and have a great time. Bingley then urges Darcy to dance too and suggests Elizabeth. But Darcy rudely says she's tolerable but not pretty enough to tempt him. Elizabeth overhears the insult and walks away, only to knock over a bottle and embarrass herself in front of everyone. Upset, Elizabeth goes outside and starts crying. Suddenly, she's approached by Featherstone, now a talking zombie. Before she can say anything important, Darcy shows up and shoots her in the head. The loud gunshot draws a crowd. Just then, more zombies appear. The guards sound the alarm. While the guests panic and run, the Bennet sisters draw their weapons and jump into action. They fight fearlessly, slicing through the undead with precision and skill. Watching Elizabeth in battle, Darcy begins to admire her. After the fight, the zombie corpses are burned. Back home, Jane can't stop talking about Bingley, while Elizabeth trains angrily, complaining about Darcy's arrogance, her punches landing harder each time. The next day, Jane gets invited to tea at Bingley's house. Hoping she'll have to stay the night if it rains, Mrs. Bennet insists she ride a horse instead of taking the carriage. On the way, Jane runs into trouble. Some dogs dash past, chased by a zombie. As Jane prepares to shoot, her horse panics and throws her off. She tries firing her musket, but it backfires and injures her hand. When the zombie attacks, Jane pulls out a knife and fights back, slicing off its hands and slashing its legs in a fierce battle. After knocking the zombie down, Jane crushes its chest with a kick and stomps on its head to kill it. As rain starts falling, she spots a zombie mother carrying an infected baby coming toward her. The next day, Elizabeth arrives at Bingley's house. Jane had caught the flu and spent the night there with a fever. Darcy, worried she might be infected, brings in carrion flies, insects that react to the infected. But the bugs ignore Jane, proving she's clean. Elizabeth catches them easily, crushes them in her fist, and hands them back to Darcy with a sarcastic smile. Later, Jane joins Bingley and his guests but chooses to read instead of play cards. A debate starts about what makes a real woman, leaving Darcy both annoyed and intrigued. That night, Elizabeth secretly watches Darcy training outside. The next day, their mother and sisters come to take Jane and Elizabeth home. Bingley wants them to stay, but Darcy warns about infection risks. He and Elizabeth argue again, and he reveals he knows she watched him the night before. To smooth things over, Mrs. Bennet convinces Bingley to throw a ball to cheer everyone up. On the way home, they pass a ruined orphanage and see zombie orphans roaming the woods. Soon after, Mr. Bennet introduces his cousin Collins, who will inherit their home because women can't. And during lunch, Collins brags about his powerful patroness, Lady Catherine, a famous zombie fighter. He's interested in Jane, but Mrs. Bennet shuts that down fast, offering Elizabeth instead. That afternoon, Collins and the sisters go visit their aunt. On the road, they find a crashed carriage and a screaming woman, who turns out to be a zombie. The sisters take her down, and Jane finishes the job by kicking her down a hill. As they continue, Elizabeth struggles with all the weapons, but Collins just dumps more on her instead of helping. When they reach town, they see new soldiers stationed for protection. Elizabeth meets Lieutenant Wickham and they instantly connect. Darcy, riding nearby, sees them and leaves without a word. Wickham tells Elizabeth he and Darcy have bad blood over money. That night at the ball, Jane and Bingley spend time together. Elizabeth tries to talk to Wickham, but Collins pulls her into an overly enthusiastic dance. Darcy also asks her to dance, but Collins makes things so awkward that the moment is ruined. As Darcy is leaving, he overhears Mrs. Bennet talking about Jane's future with Bingley, focusing only on how rich he is. Meanwhile, Elizabeth runs into Bingley. Suddenly, they hear a noise and turn to see a servant being attacked by a zombie. Grabbing some axes, they chase it downstairs. The zombie grabs Bingley, causing him to fall. Elizabeth slides down and knocks the zombie away, then checks on Bingley. But when she looks up, she's shocked to find a group of zombie orphans hiding there. She asks how they got in and one kid says their new friend helped them. Just then, Darcy shows up and starts slashing through the zombies with his sword and a kitchen knife. One even gets shoved into an oven. Darcy asks if Bingley was bitten and almost kills him, but Elizabeth insists he's fine. Before leaving, she tells Darcy he may be a great fighter, but he's a terrible friend. The next day, Jane gets a letter from Bingley saying his family is moving to London and he'll start courting Darcy's sister instead. During lunch, Mr. Collins proposes to Elizabeth but tells her she'd have to stop fighting zombies. She rejects him and storms outside to train. Her mother scolds her for refusing such a good match, but her father supports her. Elizabeth hugs him in thanks and runs off into the woods for peace. In the forest, she sees birds circling above 4 men in top hats, but when she turns around, they're gone. Then Wickham appears and invites her to see something. They go to a church where a priest is preaching to a crowd. When the crowd turns around, Elizabeth realizes they're all zombies. Wickham stops her from attacking. The priest is feeding them pig's brains. Wickham explains that if zombies avoid human brains, they don't fully turn, and this might be the key to peace between humans and zombies. Elizabeth agrees and suggests taking this idea to the crown, but Wickham says the country is too broke from the war to help. Later, one of Elizabeth's friends says she's marrying Collins and asks Elizabeth to come meet the in-laws. At Collins' estate, Elizabeth notices a painting of Catherine killing Lucifer and another of the 4 horsemen of the zombie apocalypse, who are said to appear at the end of days. She realizes they're the same 4 men she saw in the woods. Elizabeth finally meets Catherine and her daughter, and to her surprise, Mr. Darcy is there too. She finds out he's Catherine's nephew. Soon after, Wickham shows up because Elizabeth invited him so he could ask for money. Catherine laughs at the idea that zombies can be reasoned with, but Collins says the Bible mentions the Antichrist leading the undead. Darcy agrees with Catherine and gets angry when Wickham brings up his father, so he orders the guards to throw Wickham out. Elizabeth is furious and tells Darcy he's as cold as the zombies. That night, Darcy trains alone to deal with his anger. Elizabeth can't sleep because of her friend's loud snoring, so she goes for a walk and runs into Wickham. He tells her that Darcy convinced the Bingleys to leave because he thought Jane only wanted their money. Wickham then asks Elizabeth to run away with him, but she says no. Before leaving, he warns her that something big is coming. The next day, Darcy tells Elizabeth he sees her as beneath him, but he still wants to marry her. She rejects him and accuses him of ruining Jane and Bingley's relationship. He defends himself, and their argument turns into a wild fight. Elizabeth kicks him, throws things and even hits him with a poker. They wrestle, fight hard and end up in several awkward positions. When Elizabeth says she'll never marry him, Darcy finally gives up and leaves. She breaks down in tears. Later, Darcy sends her a letter. He explains that he didn't mean to hurt Jane. He only wanted to protect Bingley from Mrs. Bennet. He also reveals something painful. He had to kill his own father after he turned into a zombie. Despite everything, he gave Wickham the money he was promised. But Wickham kept asking for more, and when Darcy refused, Wickham tried to marry Darcy's young sister for her fortune. Darcy stopped him just in time. Darcy ends the letter by saying he respects Elizabeth's feelings and is leaving for London to fight a new wave of zombie attacks. He suspects someone is organizing the zombies as the attacks seem too well planned. When Elizabeth returns home, she's shocked to learn that Wickham has run off with her youngest sister, Lydia. She fears he's taken her to the zombie church. That night, Catherine visits Elizabeth and warns her, if she doesn't marry Darcy, then he'll marry Catherine's daughter instead. Elizabeth starts seeing Darcy in a new light, but she's still unsure about marrying him. Catherine then challenges her to a duel with her personal guard. The man is big and strong, so he easily blocks Elizabeth's attacks and throws powerful punches. But she doesn't give up. Even when he chokes her and cuts her face, she fights back and breaks his arm. With a strong kick, she knocks him into a beam, causing part of the ceiling to collapse on him. Catherine corners Elizabeth with her swords but admits she respects her courage. Just then, Mr. Bennet walks in and forbids Elizabeth from rescuing her sister. It's too dangerous. Jane offers to help, but Elizabeth tells her to stay and protect the family. Catherine then offers to take the Bennets to her estate so Jane and Elizabeth can leave safely. When the sisters reach the bridge, soldiers stop them. They've set explosives to destroy the bridge at dawn to stop zombies from spreading from London. But the sisters ignore them and keep going. Meanwhile, Bingley throws a bomb at a trench full of zombies. As he turns to leave, one grabs his scarf, but Jane shows up just in time to cut the scarf and push him away from the blast. Nearby, Darcy kills a zombie with his sword, then sees undead hands rising from the ground. A huge zombie tries to attack him, but Elizabeth saves him with an axe. They realize they're standing on a zombie graveyard and start stabbing the ground to stop the rising dead. Afterward, Elizabeth tells Darcy her sister is at the church, but Darcy lies and says it burned down 5 days ago. After he leaves, it's revealed the church is still standing. He lied to keep her safe. Darcy sneaks into the church and sees the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse leading a zombie horde. Elizabeth notices Bingley keeps glancing toward the church, not the bridge, and realizes Darcy lied. She rides off at once. At the military camp, someone finds out all the dead soldiers' brains are missing. Back at the church, Darcy sneaks in through a back door and finds Lydia chained up. He discovers Wickham's plan to use the zombies to attack London. Wickham appears and Darcy offers him money for Lydia, but Wickham refuses and starts shooting. The gunshot attracts the horde. Darcy had fed them the soldiers' brains to make them aggressive. While Wickham tries to fight them off, Darcy breaks Lydia's chain. At the same time, his horse pulls open a barred window so they can escape. Outside the church, Darcy helps Lydia onto his horse and sends her toward the bridge. Then he fights off a few zombies before Wickham shows up, and the two begin a sword fight as the zombies pour out of the church. Meanwhile, Elizabeth rides ahead and watches in horror as London burns. She spots Lydia in the distance and calls out to her, but Lydia doesn't hear. Elizabeth gets ready to face the zombie horde with her sword. Lydia reaches the bridge just as soldiers prepare to blow it up. Back at the church, Darcy stabs Wickham, but it doesn't work. Wickham reveals he's been undead the whole time and has resisted eating brains because of his hatred for Darcy. He says he's the Antichrist and will lead the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Just as he's about to kill Darcy, Elizabeth arrives, cuts off Wickham's arm and runs him over with her horse. Elizabeth and Darcy escape on horseback with zombies chasing them. They reach the bridge just as it explodes. Her sisters think Elizabeth died in the blast, but she survives, crawling from the rubble. She finds Darcy unconscious, kisses him and tells him she loves him. Days later, Bingley proposes to Jane and she says yes. Darcy wakes from his coma and tells Elizabeth he heard her on the bridge. He proposes and she says yes too. Both couples get married, with Mr. Collins officiating. Everyone celebrates, until Wickham appears again, leading a new zombie horde.